Top of the SportsMax zone for this Wednesday. We are back with cricket. New Zealand enter Thursday's second test against the West Indies, brimming with confidence after dismantling Jason Holder's men by an innings and 134 runs in the first test in Hamilton. The Windies go into the match without two of their better players, as pacer Kemar Roach and wicketkeeper Shane Dorrich are listed as unavailable. Pacer Shamar Holder is the most likely replacement for Roach. One man who will play for the Windies is Shannon Gabriel, and the strapping fast bowler from TNT spoke on the eve of what will be his 50th test.
I think we need to learn from our mistakes. What happened in the last game, I think we need to put that as past. We can't really focus on that too much. Just look forward to the future and stick to our basics and concentrate on what we have to do as a team together and to work together. I think you have to be prepared to work hard. He's a guy not going to give you much chances. So you have to be able to focus and be mentally strong to run in each ball and put the ball in the right spot. And hope for something to happen. Or either you bowl a good ball and you take away his hand, but he's not going to give you his wicket, so you have to work hard for it.
Now, the West Indies bowling coach Roddy Estwick has also been speaking about how the Windies can improve in this department for the second test.
Well, Kemar is a very, very important member of our bowling group. You know, he's the lead member of our bowling group. He's the most experienced. He's got over 200 test wickets just going past Andy Roberts. So that's a great achievement in itself for Kemar. So we're going to miss him, but it gives one of the other young bowlers an opportunity. But we've got to be more disciplined. We've got to be more disciplined. And we've got some other plans that I can't give to you, but we've got to come up with ways of getting not only Kane out because it's a good batting side, but we've got to come up with plans to get in 20 wickets against New Zealand if we're going to win the test match, because they're one up. So you don't expect them to give us a chance. So we've got to find ways of getting 20 wickets. We've got all the footage, we've got our analysts, we've done all our homework. Now it's up to the players to go out and execute for long periods, not just execute for half an hour. You've got to be able to execute for 6 hours and then come back again and execute for another 6 hours, and you've got to be prepared to do that.
Gabriel has captured 147 wickets from 49 tests at an average of 30.74. New Zealand are set to be recalling the fit-again BJ Watling, their first-choice wicketkeeper who missed the first test due to a hamstring strain. Now, joining us to preview the match, regional cricket analyst, international commentator Fazeer Mohammed. Faz, I heard Roddy Estwick there talking about 20 wickets trying to win the match. But I would think, based on what happened in the first test in Hamilton, avoiding defeat should be the first order of business for the Windies.
I suppose that's the practical way, the pragmatic way of looking at things, Lance. But I suppose you have to sound optimistic. You're not going to say, well, you know, I think we're going to lose 2-0 and we need to pick up the pieces after that, because then people will say, why are you the bowling coach? Why are you any official speaking so negatively? Before we even continue, I just want to quickly mention just a small point. Today makes it 60 years, the 60th anniversary of the start of arguably the greatest test series ever played, the Thai Test Series, 1960-61. And it would be nice to know that some of our players at least have a sense of the significance of that series, but the time doesn't allow us to develop that point this evening, because we're talking about the second test match. But certainly from the West Indies point of view, you would think they could only improve from what happened in the first test match, but it's opportunities for a Shamar Holder more than likely, Joshua De Silva probably as wicketkeeper batsman, replacing Shane Dorrich. So it's about those players and those who didn't really deliver in that first test match and that overall abysmal effort. It's their opportunity to try to at least make amends.
Yeah, if you were in charge, Faz, of selecting this second test team, I'm not asking you what you think the tour selectors will do. I'm asking you what Fazeer Mohammed would do. What would be the changes, given the fact that Roach is back home or heading back home and Dorrich is also heading back home? Changes are going to be made for sure. What would that changes be? What would those changes be for you?
There really aren't too many options, Lance, because even if you might be arguing for Shimron Hetmyer, he's under some concussion cloud at the moment. Kemo Paul, similarly, nursing a groin injury, so we're not too clear on their fitness issues. Should Rakeem Cornwall be considered? We don't know, because Wellington is usually a fast bowlers type of tracker. It's known as Windy Wellington, and famously Courtney Walsh was the one given the task of bowling into the wind in Wellington in 1987 when no one else seemed to want to do the job. So that gives you a sense of the challenge that is facing the bowling lineup. And as I see it, to answer your question very briefly, I see Joshua De Silva coming in for the absent Shane Dorish and Shemar Holder coming in for Kimar Roach, and indeed giving the other players really an opportunity to prove that what went on in the first test match, that they can do a lot better than that, because I think it'll be extremely tough to throw in someone like an Nkrumah Bonner or anyone else, for example, into the middle order or the batting lineup at this stage, given the fact that New Zealand is so dominant at this point in time.
Yeah. Injuries aside, Faz, we have to say that Shannon Gabriel probably has been our most potent fast bowler in recent years. How much impact do you think he can have in this Wellington Test match, and how much he should have, given his experience and pace?
A lot of factors. Catches being taken, on him really being consistent. We've seen occasions where, for example, famously in that first test match when the catch went down between Dorridge and Bravo at slip, and thankfully he got the wicket of Will Young with the very next delivery. That doesn't often happen. And credited to Shannon Gabriel, because we often overlook the fact that he's on the wrong side of 30 as a fast bowler. He made his test debut all of 8 years ago, almost 9 years ago at Lord's, and he was even injured in that first test match. So he's had a really checkered career as far as injuries, but certainly within the last 3 years, he's made huge strides forward as far as his fitness. Had that famous test match against Sri Lanka in St. Lucia, which is noted to be a featherbed trap, when he picked up 13 wickets in that test match that ended in a draw. And he's really shouldered the burden manfully. He is a big man. We make a lot of jokes about him, about his mobility. He's often reminded about that horrible shot in the test match in Dominica against Pakistan. You know, why did you do that sort of thing? But when you really look back on it and what he's been able to contribute to this West Indies team as the strike bowler, I think he deserves immense credit, and hopefully he will have the opportunity to deliver. You can't be sure, because New Zealand are really a doughty, fighting, quality team, and they're not going to give their wickets easily to him or anyone else.
Fazeer, look at that, his average, 30.74. I mean, the hallmark of the top bowlers in the world would be sub 30, but 30.74 in a struggling team, and he has maintained his pace throughout his career. Isn't that really commendable?
Because it's so easy for someone like him to drop the shoulders and really not give the sort of effort. But I think if it's one thing that has been said about Shannon Gabriel, certainly within the last 3 or 4 years that he's been a regular in the test team and that he's put his injuries aside for a while, is that he gives everything, whether it's the first ball of the morning or if he's called back for a third spell late in the day. His effectiveness may not be always what you would like. And as you point out quite correctly, Wayne, averaging 30.74 per wicket is not necessarily world class. But when you look at his overall numbers and the fact that he's been able to have this very good period over the last 3 years, and when you look at the numbers of almost everyone else except Kimar Roach, and of course Jason Holder has done a very good job as well with the ball of late, I think he's carried that responsibility extremely well. He would certainly need the sort of support, whether from a Shemar Holder or anyone else. But I think if it's one thing you could rely on Shannon Gabriel, even if he's spraying it all over the place or on a perfect line, he's always going to be coming charging it.
Okay, Faz, thanks for talking to us here on the SportsMax Zone. Of course, tomorrow evening, this time, that second test would have started in Wellington, and we're hoping that the West Indies can significantly lift their performances from the Hamilton effort. George, we have been looking at the possible lineup for this game. We see that although Raymond Reefer was on a standby status for the overall tour, he isn't in the reckoning for selection here. Like for like, Shemar Holder looking set to come in for Kimar Roach. Reefer's output for this West Indies team, whether it's A-team cricket or whichever team he has played for, he's done reasonably well. Do you think he would be a little disappointed at not being given an opportunity to be at least looked at for selection in the second test?
he would feel, and he should feel hard done by that he wasn't taken into the 11. But you have to look at the West Indies selectors and look at what they want. What are the tools they need to give them a fighting chance of a decent outturn in this test match? And I think that the selection of Shamara Holder over Raymond Reefer makes sense. That does not and should not stop Raymond from feeling as if, yeah, I really got the short end of the stick here based on what I've been able to contribute. As you rightly pointed out, I should have gotten a look in, but from the selector's perspective, two different perspectives, I think they've done the right thing by going for Shamara Holder. We'll give them a more pace, we'll give them more aggression, because that's what the bowling unit needs to dislodge and disrupt the New Zealand batting. Gentlemen, we're talking about two teams who are so different. We're talking about one team who is decent to good on their travels, excellent at home, versus a team who is awful on the road and only decent at home. We're talking about the West Indies team that really and truly, for the West Indies team to have a chance in a test match, either home or away, they'll need two outstanding performances with bat, and two outstanding performances with ball to give themselves a fighting chance. Other teams need one outstanding performance with bat to set them up for a total that they can defend, and then one bowler who is outstanding, and everybody else galvanizes around that bowler and helps the team to get the victory. On the victory push. I'm saying that the West Indies, in terms of makeup and composition, is an inferior team to New Zealand. The result in the Hamilton test was no fluke. It is a measure of the gap between the teams, and I don't know about either of you. I'm looking at this test with dread. It could be another humbling defeat for the Caribbean men. I see nothing that will suggest a different result.
Why, George, I thought you were out of breath at one stage. Look at the New Zealand bowling attack. They have a left-arm spinner, and there's a left-arm fast bowler, Trent Bolt, in their team. West Indies, all our bowlers are right-handers, fast bowlers, similar stuff, almost similar pace now, with the exception of maybe Shannon Gabriel, who's a little quicker than the rest. But don't you think that a Raymond Reefer coming in with his left arm fast bowling, maybe go around the wicket, over the wicket, going across the right-handers would add a little more variation to their bowling attack, so they don't look so similar?
I'm going to ask a question and make it into a statement that you can answer it very well, Wayne, based on your past
experience. We don't have the time,
experience.
George, because you're going to talk for 3 minutes now.
Based on your past experience, based on what the selectors would have seen in camp in training, how well has Raymond Reefer troubled our own batsmen with the variety that we say he offers? That is the reason why he will sit on the sidelines for this second test, and Shamara Holder is going to get a game. Simple as that. He's not done enough, obviously, behind the scenes in camp to tell the selectors that, yes, Roach is out, I'm the ideal replacement, because, see, I've been troubling the batsmen. I've been showing you that if you turn me loose on these New Zealanders, I'll give them something to think about. That's why it's an easy decision, I thought, for the selectors to have gone with Holder.
Yeah, we've got to leave that there, and I should point out that this position, as Fazeer mentioned, Joshua De Silva looking set to go in. He has a first-class batting average of 32. Now, a big test series starts live on SportsMax on December 17. World number 1, Australia, against world number 3, India. There are two Aussie uncapped batsmen, Will Pukovski and Cameron Green. Their first-class average is 54 and 55. They're not certain to be getting into the Aussie team. And here's a Joshua De Silva for the West Indies, looking pretty much a shoe-in to get in with a 32 average. Lots of cricket coming up on the home of champions in the coming days. The Lanka Premier League, the Jaffna Stallions against the Colombo Kings. That's Andre Russell's side, 5 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock Eastern Caribbean time. And check out the later game, 10 o'clock Eastern Caribbean time, 9 o'clock in Jamaica, the Gaul Gladiators against the Candy Tuskers. Back with more on The Zone after this.